when we think about Hispanic Heritage Month, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on our families. I think about how our families have inspired our leadership presence, our leadership ability. And I think about my parents. I think about my mom and my dad and their story. They came to this country, started a family. Their second-born child, my sister, was born with Spina Bifida, and she lived 46 years because of their love and attention to her. But as immigrants, that also meant they had to learn to navigate the medical system. They went on to have 3 other children, so they had a family of 5 daughters. All of us went to school and the university and got our degrees. And so it was seeing how they managed the challenges that they faced and the things that they did that inspired the type of leader that I am today.
This is Associations Thrive, the podcast celebrating successful associations and their leaders. I'm your host, Joanna Pineda, CEO and Chief Troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Listen in as top association executives tell all, revealing the creative and innovative ways they're increasing membership, generating revenue, nurturing engagement, and reimagining their organizations. By the way, if you've launched a new initiative, created new member services, or updated your governance structure and are seeing great results, I want to hear your story, and so do my listeners. I'd love to have you as a guest. Go to podcast.matrixgroup.net and apply to be on Associations Thrive. Now let's dive into this week's show. Today, I'm speaking with Josie Hernandez, president of Association Latinos. Now, listeners, Josie was a guest on Associations Thrive back in September 2023. We'll put a link in the show notes to that wonderful interview where Josie talked about why Association Latinos exists, how they came to be, and their wonderful programs. Today, we're going to talk about the future of Association Latinos and the forces and trends shaping their new initiatives. Josie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm very excited to be back speaking with you.
Well, Josie, for folks who did not hear last year's interview, and again, we'll put a link in the show notes, who is Association Latinos? Tell us about the organization.
Yes, Association Latinos is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance Latino leadership and representation within the association space. We started as a LinkedIn community in 2020, and we established ourselves as an official 501c3 nonprofit in 2022. We have a board of directors with 7 members. We added 2 board members last year, and then the original co-founders are the 5. And we have a volunteer group of over 40 individuals. And our volunteers are rock stars within the association space. Many of them are CEOs or in the C-suite, vice presidents, all very engaged, very passionate about the mission of Association Latinos. And it is because of our volunteers that we have been able to really move forward with many of the ideas and initiatives that we came together and wanting to do. So I'm excited to talk about those things, but I also think it's really important to acknowledge our volunteer leaders who are really making all of this able and are making it happen.
Well, Josie, let me ask you a question. So you started out as a LinkedIn group, and now you're an official 501c3. You're approaching the 2-year mark. What's that transition been like from kind of a meetup almost to a formal organization with a board with governance? And you probably will have some board members cycling off soon. So what's that like?
Yes, that's a great question because that is what we are working on right now. I think we are still extremely passionate about the work that we're doing. And what has been a great, not a surprise, but I think we've had a lot of success. And what has been beautiful about this is that we have very talented and skilled individuals working with us. And it's through leveraging on each other's strengths that we are able to make this path forward, that we know from working with our own clients what is needed to be able to have this transition. So when it's having the knowledge, having the understanding of what it is to be an effective board, of planning, having that transitional planning and succession planning, and thinking about the future, having that knowledge, having people with the skill set to guide us, we lean on each other. Each one of us brings different skills to the table. And when the governance skill is needed, we lean on those individuals to lead us through that. It's also a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Because we are so committed, but we understand and we constantly talk about what our organization is going to look like in 10 years or 20 years. And so that really guides us as well.
Wow, Josie, it sounds like Association Latinos has been on quite the journey. So tell us what's been happening since we spoke last year. And tell us in particular about this summit that you've got coming up. Why is it important? What is it?
Our summit, called Conexiones, scheduled for October 30th at the Matrix Group in Washington, D.C. It is a full day of professional development. We have 3 workshop sessions. We have an opening keynote speaker. We've got a session that is really about skill development and strategic planning. We have a session that focuses on embracing cultural wealth, embracing your assets of Latino heritage, which to me really is about personal development, is about being able to leverage who we are as individuals in the wider spaces. And then our final workshop that we have is being delivered by Esther Aguilera, which I am just so honored and excited to have her as one of our facilitators. And that session is developing a blueprint for advancing Latino leadership in associations. Now, that speaks directly to our mission. So I'm very excited about Conexiones because I feel that it offers everything that we need as Latinos to go out into the greater community and move forward to realize our potential. So we are offering something that will allow us to look at ourselves inside and who we are and give us the confidence to propel forward. We have an opportunity to develop a skill in strategic planning. So either it may be for some people the first time that they're experiencing an opportunity to learn about that skill. For other people, it may be an opportunity to participate and share what their knowledge is and hone their skills. But that's really skill development for the association professional. And then the last one is leveraging your leadership, or how to continue to develop your leadership so that you can advance yourself and those in your community. So to me, this just speaks so much to anyone who is a member of Association Latinos. I think it offers us the things that we need to be able to flourish in the greater community.
Josie, what I'm hearing is that as association executives, you probably all have access to all kinds of conferences, ASCE conferences, Association Forum, etc., where those conferences teach you the craft of association management. But what I'm hearing is Conexiones is about being an association executive who is Latino, and how do you advance the mission and how do you flourish as a professional in the wider community? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly.
Because it doesn't sound like you're competing with these other conferences.
No, not at all. This is an opportunity for people to come together with other individuals who have similar stories, similar backgrounds, similar challenges and opportunities, to be in a space where they could learn together and also have content that speaks directly to their experience. And having this is very, I think, a personal development, but very personal to who our identity is. It's like you're filling yourself up so then you can take that and share yourself within the greater community. So yes, I don't see it as something that competes with any other opportunity. I see it as something that builds up our community members to be able to fulfill their potential and meet their professional goals.
Now, Josie, it's a leap to go from being an all-volunteer organization putting out webinars to an organization that's now putting on a one-day conference. What's that done to your structure and your volunteer management and your responsibilities, for example? Because now there's bigger stakes, if you will.
Yes, definitely. And that's why when I opened, I talked about the importance of our volunteers, leaders. And it's really important for me to identify them as leaders because they are leaders within our space. That is why we're able to accomplish this. So our style is not different than other organizations. Each of our board members is a liaison to a different committee. And so we are still heavily engaged in that. And then our committees have chairs and vice chairs. And it's really those chairs and vice chairs that are really driving the mission. And these are concepts and things that from almost the beginning we said we wanted to do. We put it into existence, then we put it out to our volunteers and they make it happen. And so, yes, it's important to have that structure. It's important to have that commitment. But the commitment is there. And it goes back to the two things I've said before, which is the combination of desire to succeed, desire to live out our mission, and the skill and the talent that we have in our volunteer leaders that have the experience and the ability and the capability to see things through and work together.
Boy, that's amazing that you're able to do all this with an all-volunteer staff. Well, let's turn to something different. So a few months ago, I had 3 execs from different community groups within ASAE talking about the workforce trend survey that was sponsored by Association Latinos. So maybe tell us about that and what's been the result.
Yes, the Workforce Trend Survey, again, is another initiative that we talked about early on, and we are able to roll things out as time progresses, as opportunities allow, as our priorities enable us to move these things forward. And the purpose of this study, as was shared in the previous podcast that was done, is really to establish a benchmark by which we can measure our success. How do we know that we are having an impact? How do we know that we are achieving our mission? And so we had reached out, checked to see in many different spaces if this data was available. And it was not just many, many different spaces that we were looking for this and weren't able to find it, but it's necessary. I think it goes back to what I've said several times now is that the understanding of what we need as an organization to measure our success and to measure our growth. And so we decided to put the study together. And in doing so, realized that we weren't the only people that needed it. We are almost at closing the study. We presented our preliminary results at ASAE Annual. And there are some items I would say maybe perhaps not too surprising, but there are definitely details there that provide us with benchmarks on how to grow. What's important for us, our goal is to serve anyone who comes into our community in the role of coordinator all the way to CEO. And what we want to see is we want to see that progression if the person wants the progression. So we've identified that on average, many people who are in the C-suite that completed the survey did start out as a coordinator.
Oh.
And the average time to attain that was 10 years.
Ah.
So we've looked at that. And so what can we do to impact that, right? If there is anything that we can. Or when other people come in, or when people come in at other stages in their career, what can we do to support them? But most importantly, when we begin to gather our demographic data of our members, what is that progression going to look like for them? And how is that going to be impacted by what we are able to provide in our programs and services?
Boy, I love this because I filled out the survey and you asked demographic questions, but you also asked about progression. So you're able to really look at the dynamic progression of people within the profession.
Yes.
Huh. Josie, what other things have you been doing in the past year?
One of the great things that happened this year that was a little bit surprising was we had a networking event in Chicago. And most of the attendees of that event were obviously Latinos, but were new to us. They were people that we had not met before through our usual association community. And that was different. It was really a moment where we could see, when we talk about the future of Association Latinos, what that future potential is like. Being able to bring people into the association community that were not engaged before, and also being able to think about how we bring new professionals into the association space. So we had about 50 people attend that event. Many of them were new to the association space community. We're all working in associations, and we're all very eager to continue to participate. So that was really an eye-opening experience, and really probably for the future, let us think of doing that in other spaces, particularly on the West Coast, which is oftentimes not easy to engage with, or other regional areas. So I think that's beneficial for the association community as a whole, and really helped us see an additional vision for our organization.
Wow. Well, Josie, it is Hispanic Heritage Month here in the United States. And I read this amazing statistic from the U.S. Latino GDP report that was released just last week, I think, or a couple of weeks ago, by researchers from UCLA and the California Lutheran University. This is an amazing stat. They found that from 2019 to 2022, Latinos were responsible for 41% of the growth in real U.S. GDP, despite comprising just 19% of the U.S. population. What do you make of this statistic? And let's think about this in the context of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Well, I think it's important to talk about this, and important to also know who is doing research, because part of why Association Latinos exists as well is to reframe the story of Latinos in the U.S. Because oftentimes the interpretation does not align with reality. So it's important to have data. It's important to have that information so that we can really tell the story of what Latinos contribute to the U.S. and how that plays into the association space. And the future of Association Latinos is that with continued economic growth, economic impact, I believe that the participation of Latinos within associations is going to grow, both through development and expansion of Latino serving associations. So associations based around Latino identity, and also through greater participation of Latinos in what you might call the traditional association space. So that really puts Association Latinos in a position to continue and begin to serve those communities, to provide the professional development opportunities for those communities, to provide communication, to provide an opportunity to share resources, to provide something like Conexiones, a space for individuals to come and network with each other and learn from each other. So I think really that talks about the future and the potential and the opportunities for Association Latinos.
Josie, what are you looking forward to in the coming year with Association Latinos?
Oh, I'm so excited for that question. You also asked, what are some of the things that happened this year or since last year? What was very exciting was that we had our first reception at ASAE Annual. It was very successful. And it was one of those moments where I told everyone, take a picture, look around, because this will be the first time. And 20 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to say, wow, remember then? Remember that first event?
I was there. It was terrific.
Yes, thank you. So what I'm most excited about is continuing to establish those things that we have done already and build upon them. So having a presence at ASAE, our Conexiones Summit, what will that look like next year based on this year? We can't forget about our awards program. We've added a new award this year for associations who are serving the Latino community.
Oh.
That is something that is new. So I'm excited about continuing with the established programs we have already, and then the opportunities to continue to serve the greater community, to continue to partner with our supporters and our allies. And I have to say that that is a big part of our story and a big part of our success. Although we are so focused and we certainly serve our Latino community, I think what has been beautiful is that our success has also been provided by our supporters and allies, that we are a space yes, for Latinos, but also for people who are interested in connecting with association professionals who happen to be Latino.
Yeah, I love it. Josie, before we go, how are you celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month?
Oh, thank you so much for asking this question, because for me, Hispanic Heritage Month, I celebrate in many ways, primarily through Association Latinos and the programming that we have for that, which most of it is on our social media platforms, sharing stories, sharing interviews, sharing different opportunities to learn. But for me personally, and I think for many Latinos, when we think about Hispanic Heritage Month, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on our families.
Yeah.
I think about how our families have inspired our leadership presence, our leadership ability. And I think about my parents. I think about my mom and my dad and their story. They came to this country, started a family. Their second born child, my sister, was born with Spina Bifida, and she lived 46 years because of their love and attention to her. But as immigrants, that also meant they had to learn to navigate the medical system. They went on to have 3 other children. So they had a family of 5 daughters. All of us went to school and the university and got our degrees. And so it was seeing how they managed the challenges that they faced and the things that they did that inspired the type of leader that I am today.
Well, Josie, that is just beautiful. And I think that's an amazing and wonderful and heartfelt way to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for coming back on the show, for sharing the exciting news about Association Latinos. I'll have to have you back again next year because I know you're going to have just some exciting news and lots to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanna. I really appreciate this opportunity and your partnership. You've been a great partner to Association Latinos as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Associations Thrive. We're so glad to have you here. You know, my personal mission and the mission of my company, Matrix Group International, is to help associations and nonprofits increase membership, generate revenue, and thrive in the digital space. I want to hear stories of how your organization is thriving in today's challenging landscape. Please apply to be on my show by going to podcast.matrixgroup.net. By the way, do you need help with a digital initiative? Maybe it's a website redesign, a new membership database, or a hybrid meeting that you're planning. I'd love to connect with you. Please visit the Matrix Group website at matrixgroup.net. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of Associations Thrive. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a 5-star rating, post a comment, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Bye!